Hello and welcome. In response to Julian Assange's callous persecution, the globalist shills of Prime Minister Scott Morrison and opposition leader Dollar Bill Shorten exemplify the weakest and most treasonous leadership imaginable. These sycophantic toadies are obsequiously subservient to and fully complicit in the ongoing war crimes of the Anglo-American military-industrial warmongering complex. Authentic leadership would appropriately respond to overwhelming national and international demand to condemn the unjust incarceration of Assange and do everything possible to avert extradition to the United States. Contrary to corporate media lies and propaganda, Assange has committed no crime and is illegally detained without legitimate charge. In revealing horrific war crimes along with the runaway global corruption and human rights abuses, Assange risked his life and forfeited his freedom in order for the world community to know the ugly truth. It's noteworthy that not one mass murdering perpetrator has been held to account for these horrendous crimes against humanity. No military pilots or aircrew, no commanding officers or upper echelon decision makers made liable for these undeniable war crimes. Not one single individual got fired, got reposted or reprimanded. This appalling lack of action establishes mass murder of innocents as acceptable conduct. Instead of prosecuting the known offenders, the courageous publisher reporting indisputable facts is unforgivably tortured with 7 years confinement, compounded by unlawful arrest. This truth warrior is a legendary hero that history will sanctify while simultaneously exposing the shameful betrayal of journalism, characterizing the criminally corrupt fake news mainstream media. Morrison further exhibited intellectual and moral cowardice by refusing Assange clearly needed support and medical assistance, while Bill's short one disingenuously questioned Assange's journalistic credentials. This blatant disinformation was broadcast without challenge despite Assange winning the 2011 Martha Gellhorn Prize for Journalism. In addition, he's awarded the eminently respected award for journalists, whistleblowers, and defenders of the right to information. This prestigious award is sponsored by European parliamentarians after being established in 2018 in honour of assassinated Maltese journalist Daphne Galizia. Nobel Peace Prize laureate Mairead Maguire accepted the award on behalf of Julian Assange, who was prohibited from personal acceptance owing to his unlawful and universally despised incarceration. In exchange for a $4.2 billion IMF bribe, Ecuador's globalist puppet President Moreno violated his own country's constitution in order to turn Assange over to the crime gang UK government for extradition to US war criminals. Former President of Ecuador, Rafael Correa, denounced his country's abandonment of Assange as the biggest betrayal in Latin American history. In a recent interview, Correa stated, and I quote, "It's incredible. We cannot imagine something like this. It's against international law, it's against the institution of asylum, it's against the Ecuadorian constitution, especially because since last year, Julian Assange has had Ecuadorian citizenship," unquote. Flouting international law is nothing new to the socio-psychopaths of racketeering kakistocracy. Nazi-style forced medical interventions are routinely inflicted criminal acts, and so too are the illegal wars of invasion and occupation that this nation eagerly participates in. We are ruled by Luciferian criminals promulgating fear and ignorance while deploying weaponized race and gender pandering with great effect. Their unrestrained criminality gathers momentum, with increasing censorship constricting every aspect of authentic journalism that, in spite of their efforts, continually exposes institutionalized crime, including genocide. I frequently reported the myriad genocidal assaults, but today expose the divide and rule tactic of forced immigration swamping sovereign nations with divisively incompatible social customs, including the barbaric religious dogma of Sharia law. This Luciferian tactic is fracturing and polarising communities as never before. It's the population replacement cornerstone of globalist manipulated political, social and economic disruption, furthering their doctrine of creating order out of chaos. Another escalating contrivance is government-created crime, engendered by legislating innocuous actions as offences under manipulated law, thereby manufacturing runaway crime out of nothing. It is corrupt government deliberately fabricating crime in order to more tightly confine, suppress, disrupt, and divide sovereign populations. Innocent people are imprisoned for misgendering, deluded misfits claiming they are something that they're not, whereby a crime has been invented for demonstrably nefarious purpose. Any person can claim they magically transformed into a unicorn, but criminalising a perfectly sane and rational observer's evidence-based refusal to subscribe to that ludicrous misbelief is treason. Such legislation is calculated sedition that can only issue from criminal government, being a total perversion of law. So too are the scurrilously contrived legal entrapments of hate speech, political correctness and thought crime. These fictitious concepts are exclusively devised to eradicate freedom of expression, stifle dissent, prohibit informed discussion and obstruct critical thought. The buzz terms of Islamophobia, transphobia and misgendering are made-up words invented for this specific purpose. Such malevolent skullduggery proliferates unreported, unaddressed and unchallenged in countries around the world as part of the globalist strategy of provoking racial tension and ultimately fomenting civil war. France is already perilously close to civil war, with many sovereign nations lining up like dominoes to follow suit. Habitually inflicted false flag massacres, runaway church fire bombings and mosque attacks are transnationally coordinated aspects of demonic globalist manoeuvrings. Even the most casual observer should recognise who and what orchestrates escalating global subversion. Be assured, it is not the deceptive narrative that fake news mainstream propaganda media maliciously spoon-feeds the masses. Don't believe it, don't accept it, and stridently reject it. Instead of being a passively unresponsive victim of ever-constricting globalist oppression, become a forceful threat to it however best you can. Become the catalyst for change that urgently needs to happen. Remember, at a pivotal point in history, the German people could have stopped Hitler. The Cambodian people could have stopped Pol Pot, etc. History provides a sickening litany of criminally insane megalomaniacs who could have and should have been stopped. Their easily identified MO always starts with censorship, soon followed by disappearances, covert torture, secret executions, then mass murder, as the vicious cycle of evil repeats. Failure to stand against tyrannical rule by fear and oppression guarantees the worst possible outcome. Voting for the predatory parasites of the Liberal or Labor crime cartels in the upcoming election brings that undoubtedly